unique. I'm going to make you stand out. Amen. Put in your application. Amen. I will make your application stand out even though you might consider it dead on arrival. Put it in because God says, I will. I'll make you stand out. I'll make you significant. He says, I will bless you. And I love this. He says, when God blesses you, let me tell you something. When God blesses you, you will be blessed. Amen. You cannot hold up the blessings of God when God has released a blessing on your life. I remember the prophet Balaam, and when Ahab came to him and says, I want you to curse the children of Israel for me. He was a prophet of God. He says, I want you to curse them. He says, I'll give you a lot of money if you do it because I know your word comes out. He says, sure, I'll take your money. And then when he opened his mouth, blessings came out. And the king said, what are you doing? I didn't pay you to bless them. I paid you to curse them. He says, I'm a prophet of the Lord. I can only say what the God gives me to say. He said, you got to try this again. I'm going to give you money. I want you to curse them. He said, sure, I'll take your money. And when he opened his mouth, blessings came out. Because when God has put his blessings on your life, can't no devil in hell put a curse on you. Amen. That's what I want you to do is understand that you're not walking in the blessings of men. You're walking in the blessings of God. Come on. Hey, and when God puts his blessings on your life, you will be blessed. But not only that, when God blesses you, you will be a blessing. That means God is not blessing you so that you can just say, I got. No, he's blessing you because God is releasing to you an opportunity to be a blessing to someone else. That's what he does in our life. So when God blesses, he also makes a blessing. Come on. So that's God's plan in our life. He blesses us to make us a blessing. He says, and I will make a covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. This is what he told him. He says, I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and it will make a nation of you, and kings shall come from you. He says, I'm going to, you might not have come from royalty, but I'm going to bring royalty out of you. Come on. Come on, somebody. Amen. Amen. The next generation don't have to be worse than this generation. Come on. It can be better than this generation. Amen. If you allow God to do what he wants. He says, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generation for an everlasting covenant to be God to you and your descendants after you. He says to us today, that covenant, it makes a declaration, but covenant also makes a promise. It promises us, amen, 4 things I see that it promises. It promises us, amen, multiplication, fruitfulness. It gives us an identity, and it gives us a legacy to pass on. All this stuff flows from a relationship with God. That relationship we have with him. You know what this tells us? Us for growth. And he says, I'm going to multiply you and grow you, and you're going to see my hand in your life. So Israel had a legacy of faith, but they had a legacy of covenant. They also had a legacy of power and provision. They saw God do his great works in their lives. Matter of fact, in Deuteronomy chapter 8, he says, for the Lord, your God, is bringing you into a good land. A land of brooks, of water, of mountains and springs. A land that flows out of valleys and hills. You know, he's telling them, I'm going to take you. Remember, they've been in the wilderness for 40 years. He says, I'm going to bring you into a place that is much better than where you are. A land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates. He said, a land of olive oil and honey. A land in which you shall eat the bread without scarcity. Look at that. He says, I'm going to bring you to a place where you're going to want for nothing. He says, I'm going to bring you in a land where you will lack nothing, and a land whose stones and irons and out of whose hills you will dig copper. He said, I'm going to bring you to a place where all of your provisions and needs are met. He goes on to say this. So there's a reality. Their reality was a lot different than what God wanted them to be. Because in their reality, it was marked by doubt, unbelief, and by distractions. It's amazing. You know, they will be out. Now, they've been delivered out of Egypt, and they're in the wilderness, and they come to a place where things are difficult, and they'll turn to Moses and say, Moses, you brought us out here to die. He says, we remember the onions and the leeks that we ate when we was in Egypt. I'm like, man, of all the things you would remember, onions and leeks? Really? That's the thing that separates you from where you are? I mean, no ribs, no barbecue, no fish. I mean, but no, they're remembering onions and leeks, and those are not even primary things in our diet. Come on. But that's just how their mind was. They were so distracted, so doubtful of God's plan for their life. He tells them to beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, his statutes, which he's commanded you to obey. In Romans, he says, there is none that understands. There's none who seek after God. And we're living in that mindset even today, throughout our nation, that we say we are a Christian nation, but we don't seek after God anymore.